Welcome back to the True Performance Podcast, where we believe true performance is waking at the cellular level and we connect mind and muscle. Transformation happens. Um, we want to take a deep dive into the science of peak performance and transformational health strategies. But today we have Carrie Spears with us. So Carrie's completing her doctorate in epigenetics, and she works as a clinical nutritionist. So she's here to shed light on the role of GLP-1s in fat loss and other health conditions. So welcome to the show, Carrie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And as always, we have Matt Dawkins in the back giving us color commentary from the perspective of the general person, so we can actually make sure we cover it so everybody understands. So thank you, Matt, for being here today with us as well.
Glad to be here. And I also don't take any offense to that. You know, I'm the uneducated guy. I know enough to be dangerous. But my job, and Carrie, I'm going to take all of your complexities, all of your scientific jargon, and I'm here to help make it make sense for people like me.
You know what? I probably need to do that a little bit better, but I apologize. You're uneducated. So Matt's highly educated. We're just coming from a high scientific area in the field, and I wanted somebody to actually help us, so we can actually spread it apart. Because the one thing I don't want to do, and I don't like doing it because I see an issue with it, is when we dumb down everything, in the way we speak. And I think we actually do a disservice. And when we do that, I also think we allow other people to creep in and think everybody can do this when it's actually very nuanced, right? And that's why we have the staff we have at E3 Fitology and Six Sig Health, and that's why we have Carrie on our team, right? And she's very specialized in what she does, and that's why she's here today to actually cover those areas for us. So, when we start looking at a lot of things right now, you see it on the news, fat loss and weight loss and all these other things going on. The biggest thing you see are what's the magic pill out there. And so recently we've been seeing a lot of the GLP-1s popping up, right? And what GLP actually stands for, glycogen-like peptide 1 agonist. So that's what it stands for, okay? But we've been seeing waves of, with the diabetes and the weight loss in the communities. And here's how you can get it done fast. Here's how you can do it without exercising. Here's how you can do it without actually doing the lifestyle changes you need to do. But there are things that come up, and there are issues with that. Taking that mindset, also getting on these GLP-1s and thinking you're going to stay on them for life. That's also something else that we want to consider. Now, is it necessarily always bad for you? We're going to get into that in this podcast here. And then hopefully we'll give you, at the end, recommendations on what you should do with it, and then see if we can also help you with at E3 Fitology. So, Carrie, could you please explain what the GLP-1s are and why they are currently a hot topic?
Sure. Yeah. So like you said, it stands for glucagon-like peptide. GLP-1, it's a hormone that our body actually makes, so it's a natural product. But these GLP-1 antagonists are antagonizing that hormone receptor so that it lasts longer, and that's how these are successful. When we make this GLP-1 ourselves, it has a very short half-life, so it disappears quickly and the hunger comes back. So now with these medications, they can slow down that hunger signal, even kind of slow down metabolism in the stomach a little bit, so the stomach feels fuller longer, so therefore you're not reaching for the next food.
Hey, listen, I don't want to timestamp this podcast too much, Dr. Brown, but 'tis the season to be thinking about how in the world do I keep from overindulging? How do I keep from putting every piece of candy, in my mouth, every massive holiday meal in my mouth? Like, people need help. So I'm loving where this is going. Loving it.
Right. And you're talking about something, I mean, we're going to talk a little about later about the lifestyles, but where everybody's talking about how do we keep from doing that, right? The one thing, if you just focus on using this tool, and that's what I want to call medicine, that's what I want to call the GOPs, the ones, they're a tool, right? But there's bigger issues that people need to delve into. They need to dive into the lifestyles. They need to dive into the mindset, the reason why they came up in the first place. And that's not being talked about when they're just doing a 15-minute consult and you're getting it prescribed from somebody across the country. Now, we do this, but there's a way to do it correctly, and we hope we're doing that, right? And that's how we're going to try to correct the issue, because it is a valuable tool, right? But if it's not done just like anything else, it can be very dangerous. Okay. So, we want to talk about the next part. We want to get into assessment of it all. So, you know, so it's quite a breakthrough. Now, I want to get a little deeper. Okay, I want to get a little deeper into the background of the treatments and how did the GLP-1s evolve from diabetes care to becoming a weight management solution. So, Carrie, could you actually talk about that for me?
Yeah, they were first found, I think, in the 80s. And then in 2004, they became available for diabetic patients. And one of the things that, or the side effects that they noticed, is it was actually causing weight loss in these diabetic patients that had not been able to lose weight up until that point. So it was balancing blood sugar and causing weight loss. And so then I think it was in 2014, 2016, they released it for a weight loss drug. So it was kind of the new magic pill that everybody was looking for. And like you were alluding to, it does do that. It does create some magic in the body, but left unattended or left uneducated, we can actually lose more muscle mass than we are losing fat. And that's not a healthy thing, because muscle is metabolic. It helps us to lose weight after the fact, if after we stop these GLP-1s. Plus, it's protective for our bone health, just health in general. So we don't want to lose muscle; we want to lose fat. So doing that in the correct way, and having the education around that, and a practitioner that can work with someone, is truly the magic. So the GLP-1s create some magic, but we're gonna create the other magic with it.
So, it's quite a breakthrough. So, a lot of things a lot of people didn't even realize. In 2008, I actually had a company called Doctor Prescribed Exercise, right? It was a functional medicine, actually functional nutrition and metabolic institute is what we called it way back then. And we actually were doing GLP-1s along with bioidenticals and men and women's health. And most people didn't even do it. So we're doing it for our athletes. I did it for a lot of people. We're doing it for movies to get them down. So we're actually already using it back then. And that's why the spur of it all of a sudden coming up quickly is because of people all of a sudden asking people in Hollywood, how are you doing it? And they're using it to make their money. That goes back to the other issue that we're talking about in the big end, right? All of a sudden now it's popular because they want to be like the people on the big screen when I'll be honest with you. I've been with those people on the big screen, and you don't want to be like them all the time, right? Because there's such a rebound, and their lifestyles aren't just what you might think they should be or need to be to run a healthy long term lifestyle. And that's what we want to bring out to the general public, right? So it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Again, I'll say it probably 100 times today, but we want to get it so it can be used as a tool so they can be better than what they think those other people are, right? As their way, I don't want to call them an idol, but I don't know of a better term because that's what they're using them as right now. They're using them as an idol. I want to look like that. I want to live that life. All right. So let's be better. Let's shoot that. Let's shoot for that. Right. Okay. Man, do you have any questions so far?
Man, I just am appreciating the science here, because the reality is I drive down the street. So folks know I'm in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I drive down I-17 and I'm seeing every other billboard is something about this, right? It is trending. There's a lot of people that, like me, know enough to be dangerous. So I'm just appreciating the science. And right now I'm just kind of like a sponge. So you guys just keep going, because I'm learning 100 miles an hour, and I'm glad we're recording this. Keep
Okay.
going.
The S part. So let's talk about assessment. Let's break it down a little bit, right? Because of the breakthrough that we talked about. Now let's assess both the benefits and the potential drawbacks that we have it. So, Carrie, what have you found in your practice and in your research that you've done?
Yeah, so the definite benefit is weight loss. A lot of people are losing that. So we like to use DEXA scan, some kind of body composition scan, to first monitor where they come in as. Where is your muscle mass? Where is your fat mass? And so then following along the journey to make sure that they're losing more of the fat that they're wanting to, and not the muscle. So that's one of the big assessments that we make. Really talking about diet, because it does go back to what's at the end of your fork. Unfortunately, it's always going to go back to that. So talking about how to have a nutritious diet for them. We can also pull in the epigenetics, and talk about very specifics. How much protein does your body like from a genetic standpoint? How much carbs do you like from a genetic standpoint, etc. So we can dial that in very specific to that person. So then we take the guess away. So as well as they're using these GLP-1s, then we're assessing diet, lifestyle, exercise piece, Sleep is important. One night of bad sleep can put you in insulin resistance. Insulin resistance stops fat loss. So, it's kind of like we call the four-legged stool: diet, exercise, sleep, and stress. So, talking a lot about that. And one of the things that's kind of come up to attention is when these people are losing weight, they're also releasing toxins into the body. So, one of our magic treatments that we use is a detox protocol alongside of this, so that when they are opening up these fat cells and these stored toxins are now circulating, we don't want to cause any more diseases, conditions, issues. The goal is to make people feel good. So we're using a detox protocol to help with that. It kind of grabs those toxins, helps them to get them out of the body so that they're not experiencing Herxheimer reaction, brain fog, extra fatigue, etc. So that's some of the things that I think we're doing differently.
I want to go into this detox part because that is an area that where, again, when you let the public get a hold of certain things, how all of a sudden it gets watered down, it becomes all kind of things. So when we're hearing this term detox, what exactly are we talking about? Are we talking about we're going to put you on an apple cider vinegar and water or molasses or anything kind of special diet like that? We're going to tell you to fast for a week only on water. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, no, none of that. And I promise it doesn't keep you on the toilet all day, because that's the other cliche with detoxes. We use a company that uses fulvic and humic acid. So they're true binders found in the earth. We used to have those in our gardening practices, but that's makes the garden very fertile. So we take that out because it helps the weeds to grow, and nobody likes pulling weeds. So we've stripped that from most of our farming practices. So something we used to actually get. So now we use a company that uses that. Some people are maybe familiar with activated charcoal. It's a similar process to that. It's basically a binder. So as you're releasing fat cells, we're shrinking them, and so whatever's in them has to apoptose, has to die. So you may have come in contact with some kind of chemical like a paraben, which is found in all kinds of skincare products, especially for us women. We slather a lot of those on our faces every day. So let's just use that as an example. We now have that paraben stuck in a fat cell because the body couldn't detox it at that moment in time. So it stuck it there to keep it for safe keepings. Well, now we're telling the body we want to lose weight. So we start now shrinking these fat cells, and now all of a sudden that paraben goes, whoop, now I'm out into the bloodstream. So the body goes, we got to do something with it. So if we're taking these detox supplements alongside of that, that little fulvic and humic acid goes, I got you. Let me show you the exit. So it takes it out, exits out the back door, gently, not forcefully. So again, I promise it's not keeping you on the toilet all day.
Appreciate
That's
Um,
that.
good to hear.
so that I think will improve people's outcome on these medications. It'll also help the body feel safer, letting go of some of those fat cells. So one of the things clinically people get stalled on these GLP-1s is they say they hit that plateau and they just can't go any further. Well, we really feel like this is where the magic again can happen, and we can add this detox at that time. And the body goes, oh, we've got helpers to get these toxins out. I'll go ahead and release some more. And now the weight loss occurs again.
I'm curious, Carrie, if you can just talk about when you say people stall. So you're saying they lost a certain amount of weight, but then they've just stopped losing weight. Are there any other, you know, key like indicators right there where things come up in the body, or what do you mean by stall?
Yeah, so they can be on a roll. Kind of the average weight loss on the GLP-1s can be from 2 to 4 pounds a week, and people get used to that. So they start, and it depends on how much weight they need to lose from the beginning. If it's 20, 30 pounds, they may lose 1 or 2 pounds. If it's 50 to 100 pounds, they're going to lose a little bit more each week. So then they, get to maybe month 2 or 3, and that 1 or 2 pounds, 3 or 4 pounds a week stops. So the first thing they do is call their provider or call their health coach and, hey, I can't lose any more weight. You need to increase my dose. No, that's the last thing we need to do. So that's where we kind of come in and say, okay, maybe your body just doesn't want to lose any more weight because it knows what's left is full of toxins. So let's add these binders and see if that can help boost the weight loss again.
Awesome.
One of the things I want to piggyback off of that, when people actually start to stall, because they get stuck on the scale, right? They keep stuck on that neighbor on the scale. And honestly, that's not the real thing that we're trying to improve. We're trying to improve the adipose tissue, the fat mass, right? And so we're trying to remove that. And that's where the toxins are stored. Even as far as men go, the aromatization of the testosterone happens because of the fat, right? And so those are all kind of things that come in. So you want to keep moving that along. Like staying with the GLP-1 factor, is that sometimes when people come to us, they keep wanting to get more and more because they think more is better. I also think that's where we start getting issues. So, for long-term use, that could become an issue. They could become addictive to it. Not to mention, you start getting paralysis from doing too much. So, we also want to keep it on a microdose, but then what are the lifestyles are you doing? What are you doing in the mindset? What are you doing to fix the problem in the first place that caused the disease, that caused all the excessive weight gain that you're trying to remove, right? So that's what we're getting into the long term of it. Carrie, you have any concepts about the long term use of the GLP-1s?
Yeah, absolutely. If you come at any kind of body composition or recomposition is what we're trying to do, weight loss, fat loss, whatever you want to call it, but we're trying to have a goal here of maybe the person wants the scale to say something, maybe they want to add more muscle mass. Everybody has different goals, but the whole big picture is they're wanting to lose fat and hopefully build muscle, because that's our goal for them as well. So with that, sometimes the scale doesn't actually match that, but you look at how your clothes are fitting, you look at how you're defining yourself. Are you getting that, little something something back there that now looks really good? Um, but it's also, especially working with us, we come from the whole mind, body, spirit. If you see yourself as an obese person, there is a scary side of, well, I'm not going to be that anymore. So part of this is also walking on that journey to say, yeah, you're going to look different. So let's rip off that obese label and let's put on that healthy label, because that's what we're doing. We're building health back in the body. A healthy body can do all kinds of things, and be successful long term, anti-aging, longevity. That's where that comes from, is building that health. So I think that's another way that we do it differently.
I'm glad you said that. I'm, I'm thinking several seasons of my life, and I'm sure anybody watching right now would vouch. Maybe you're in that season right now, and you're thinking the mirror is the greatest judge, right? As we sort of kind of look in the mirror, and we can look in the mirror and we can see what needs to change, but it's really really hard to look in the mirror and to identify yourself in a better way. So a lot of times, you lost the 20 pounds, but you still feel like you did before. You lost the 50 pounds. I worked with somebody years ago who lost 200 pounds, still felt as heavy as he ever did, because to your point, the greatest adaptation happens right here when we are trying to transform. It does. A lot of times we don't see it in the mirror. A lot of times we don't hear it in the way that we affirm ourselves or encourage ourselves. So we have to take on that new language. So I know that's not what this is about, but I know that for anybody listening, this is considering transformation or implementing this into what you do. Just know that's a key component, is that we talk about the mental and emotional health, not just the physical health.
You know, so I would disagree. That's not what this is about, because this is exactly what this is about, right? We got to cover all the areas
Come on.
that
Yeah.
we're trying to help people move, right? So we're trying to improve them holistically, and if we don't cover that, then we're actually, I think we're in malpractice, for the most part. But with that being said, there's other conditions that people just look at GLP-1 getting fat loss off, right? Well, we're seeing under research right now that GLP-1s are actually helping with other conditions, right? So, like diabetes, or pre-diabetes. Carrie, are you aware of anything where it's improving diabetes long term?
Yes, especially if people are adapting a different lifestyle, because it's not about deprivation, it's just about switching to a different lifestyle along the way. Non-alcoholic fatty liver, or even fatty liver disease, because it's shrinking the fat cells in the body. So fat doesn't just come out on the outside. We see our little guts or our little, jowls or whatever you want to call it. But it's the fat is also attaching itself to the internal organs, and that's where it's not healthy. So when you're losing fat, we're all seeing different body compositions, but we're also losing fat on the organs, which is super important for overall health and longevity.
That's what people talk about. Me being a metabolic specialist, that's one of the things I tell people. Everybody talks about what's the metabolism. Your thyroid, your liver, your kidney, and your skeletal muscles are the big things that we really have to look at. That's why when we get on these GLP-1s, you got to talk about how much muscle are you losing, right? That's why strength training is actually the fountain of youth versus just doing cardiovascular. Although cardiovascular training also has this big point to actually help clear all this stuff out for you. Right. So that's why you got to have it all together versus just trying to rely on one thing. And that's where the lifestyles come in. And that's where we actually try to help. But we want to get into it as far as we're talking about actually how it actually helps move it. Because I know for a lot of women right now, there's such a thing that we got called out for. The term is PCOS. Are you aware of the benefits that it's helping with the PCOS with women fighting that condition?
Absolutely, because a lot of PCOS foundationally is a type of diabetes. It may not be attacking their pancreas, but it's attacking, their female organs or ovaries, and creating that, again, weight loss resistance. Because PCOS, if you're not addressing the underlying cause, you have that weight loss resistance. So GLP-1 again will only get you so far, but it's really looking at the whole lifestyle and changing that piece around it. So yeah, I've seen it reverse that as well.
Wow.
Okay.
And just, I had to Google it, Dr. Brown, because I didn't know what PCOS is. So polycystic ovary syndrome. So just in case anybody's going, what's PCOS? Now you know. You know. Appreciate it. Polycystic ovary syndrome.
There you go. Benefits all over the place. I love
Uh, yep. I'm here to Google things anytime you need me to. Absolutely.
So, Carrie, are you aware of anything else that we're seeing that the GLP-1s are helping with besides the fat loss, some other medical conditions that we might get into before we move on to the last piece of this?
Yeah, I don't know what all the research says. I'm not familiar with everything that it's helping, but from the clinical side, people that have joint pain, inflammation, brain fog, um, uh, acid reflux, even, different things like that. It seems to help long term. Sometimes the GLP-1s can cause a little bit of acid reflux at first because the stomach is becoming paralyzed and not moving as quickly. But long term, if you don't have the abdominal fat pushing up on the stomach, then a lot of times people's heartburn, acid reflux will disappear as well. So, I mean, from a clinical standpoint, I'm seeing most everything across the board getting better.
So you're talking about, a lot of conditions that you're talking about. Let's get into the second brain, right? The gut. And so, that's where I like to end it. A lot of this stuff is actually helping because it's actually moving and helping the absorption and the digestion of it. So it's actually, we're seeing improved gut health overall, which is a whole nother topic that we're going to have to get in some other time. Like people make it seem like it's very simple, and the gut is actually very nuanced. And how you handle that. And that's one of the things. Whenever I get somebody coming in here, they're really getting gutted. I'm like, oh, we got to talk to Carrie. we Let's call Carrie. Let me set you up. All right. Um, so let's get into the recommendations we may have, right? Because we have these great insights as far as what's good, what's bad, what we want to avoid. And we really haven't gotten into, we started talking a little bit about it, but let's be specific on what recommendations we can offer someone that's considering this treatment.
Are you directing that to me?
I am directing it to you. Sorry, I should have been more clear.
You think you me?
So we do assessments. One of the things, if you tell us you already have been diagnosed with gastroparesis, heartburn, hiatal hernias, we may do some other lifestyle modifications first before we just jump right on a GLP-1 to keep you from having some of the known side effects as nausea, vomiting, abdominal bloating, just discomfort. But we take that assessment, we put together a plan of action for which medication we're going to put you on, the dosage. We start out slow and low. Again, it's like the Goldilocks syndrome. It has to be just right. Too much of it is going to cause the opposite effect, and nobody wants that. So Then we talk about lifestyle piece. We talk about diet, exercise, sleep, stress. We tackle all of that. So we really come at it from a totally different area. And then when the time is right during the process, we add the detoxification piece. We may use some other supplements as well to help support the body. Vitamins and minerals is one of those things a lot of people are just deficient in because of gut health. We don't absorb a lot of things. So, we may not come at it up front, but we're always looking at all of these things on the back end to, again, at the end result, to make you a healthier human, because healthy humans are happier and the world needs some more happy people.
Mm. Uh,
Yeah. So let's talk about this a little bit because some people get upset when they come to us for GLP-1s. They're like, "I not yet," and we know there's really no replica of GLP-1s, but there's some alternative GLP-1 boosters, right? Some natural ones. Are you aware of any of those we can share with the people?
Some of the research shows acromantia is a good probiotic type supplement that really helps boost things, as well as just fasting. Fasting can help with that too. So it doesn't always have to be a pill, potion, or powder, but just willpower and the knowledge. Those are the two biggest things that I've heard. What about you, Dr. Brown?
Because I do believe there's several ways that actually help boost the GLP-1 levels. But, the big thing is because we want to contribute to improve the insulin secretion, the delayed gastric emptying and reduced appetite. So these natural methods are primarily revolve around dietary choices, lifestyle modifications, but talking about dietary fibers, right? So ingesting foods high in fiber, especially high soluble fiber, can increase your GLP-1 production. So we're talking about things like oats, oat bran, legumes, some fruit, typically apples, oranges, and pears and stuff like that, and some vitamins, carrots, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, like the green leafy stuff. Okay. And we say sometimes people say flaxseed, but because of the husk on them, again, if you're a man, I say limit your flaxseed intake. Say you don't have to avoid it, but limit it for reasons, right? And then we're talking about protein-rich foods. So protein stimulates the GLP-1. Okay. Um, so what are good protein foods like lean meats? Some people now, if you're vegan, I'm going to refer to you on more to vegan-based, but plant-based foods like tofu, tempeh, and legumes also help. But meats, fish, eggs, and dairy products. People say stay away from dairy products, and we talk about with the GLP-1s. We want people to stay away from inflammatory foods, but dairy is not inflammatory for everybody,
Right.
right? But if it is for you, then yes, do not do it. Right?
Yeah.
Same thing with the high fiber. So wheat, the gluten, right? It could be inflammatory for you, and if it is for you, then remove it. And that's what it is, right? We don't have to get rid of it all because there's very good benefits to those foods, right? And that's what we get into. Lastly, the inflammatory foods, anti-inflammatory foods, kind of like berries, some nuts and seeds. Unless you're allergic to them, then stay away from them. Again, the leafy greens and spices like turmeric and cinnamon help, right? And then, of course, you always talk about healthy fats. I call them medium chain triglycerides. We talk about healthy fats like olive oils, coconut oils, nuts and seeds, and fish fat.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. And,
Okay.
I would say with the fiber, it's just eat a rainbow a day. Try to have one different color of the rainbow every day. Then you're getting good, healthy fiber from a natural source. Plus, you're building health in the body. So, yeah, eat a rainbow.
and would you
And
recommend,
go ahead.
Gary, mentioned like I'm going to butcher it, but acromantia?
Yes.
You mentioned that, and then of course a couple other things. And Dr. Brown, you just went down a long list. Is this something that you'd encourage folks to do in conjunction with the GLP-1, or is this something they could do instead of it? Like, can they do both? Like, if I want to get results faster, or if I'm trying to get there as fast as possible, right? Like, do all the above, or one or the other?
No, you can do them all at the same time. But again, it's personalized, and that's I think that's the big takeaway here. Is what we do is it's very personalized to that person. We ask all kinds of different questions. We want to make sure that we're covering them as an individual. So we may start out with one or two and then add along the way. That way you see what the body can tolerate. If I throw the whole bathtub at you, it's just going to hurt.
That's what I was thinking in my head is like, does it make it worse if I do all that at the same time? Or when you said slow and low, I appreciated that because of some of the things that we talked about earlier from other folks that have done this the wrong way. Slow and low, is that slow and low? You're going to tell someone we're going to start with a low dosage and then we're also going to ease you into a particular diet? Or when you're talking with someone, are you going, this is what we're going to start eating right now? How do you deal with the diet end when you're talking to a patient or client? Or yeah.
Yeah, one thing I like to do is I always give the 360-foot view. I say, here's where we're going to go, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So now let's make this manageable. 2 or 3 different things that you can do while we're working on the mindset piece, because building a new habit around this is really what makes it successful. So if we're going to take out certain foods, like let's just say we say, okay, here's this GLP-1. Now we want you to take out all processed foods, and here's some foods that you can replace those with. Maybe we start there. And then along the way, we say, okay, now let's maybe add an acromantia supplement and see how that does. So it's a process that we like to walk with the people along the way. That way they have, a cheerleader, accountability, a coach, and education all in one to, again, make them successful at the end and a healthier human.
Getting into it, and I'm going to cover that a little bit. So, with Sig Health and E3 Foodology, there's one place you can get your doctor, you can get your coach, and you can get your nutritionist all in one place, right? But as you start getting into it, as far as what our protocol is, our protocol with the GLP-1s and a lot of our stuff, we actually want to use the tools as little as possible. Okay. So as far as the GLP-1s, we want to actually, typically we're going to microdose it first. But as far as getting our protocol, you have to do the lifestyle. We have to start working and getting coaching on the lifestyle changes. The exercise to keep the muscle and to keep the metabolism up, and actually start going anti-inflammatory so we don't cause you an issue, right? The number one thing we talk about in medicine is do no harm, right? But if we're not watching you and we allow you to go out there and use that as a magic pill, and you're taking this GLP-1, but all of a sudden you're going out there and partying at the boathouse, drinking all this alcohol and eating whatever you want to, whenever you want to, we're only looking for you to actually have more issues and longer term, right? And that's one of the issues that at the very beginning I was talking about is what we're seeing. They're just handing it out. But people got to realize that eventually the FDA is going to come back and they're going to pipe down, they're going to close it down, and everybody's going to start complaining that they can't get a hold of it. And when they can't get a hold of it, then the price goes up, right? They're going to cause it themselves if they don't start taking the proper precautions, and if these practitioners don't start putting it out there the way they should be, right? If they're not managing their clients, if they're not walking them through the proper protocols, the clinical care, right? That's why we want to come out here and do it right from the get-go.
You talk about accountability. And that's one of the things when we talked about this offline, Dr. Brown, that's one of the things I told you I was most excited about, was that we were going to do it differently, right? That accountability was going to be a big part of it. You've always been about accountability. And the reality is that's what people need in this. They need the holistic approach. They need to have that as an opportunity. So for people to realize that this is, as I'm sitting here thinking about this is an incredible tool, but it's one of the tools. It's not the tool. It's one of the tools. And there are so many people who are so interested in this opportunity, but what's holding them back is that they've tried other things and they've not been successful in the past. So for a lot of people don't start because they feel like they're so far behind, right? But if they could realize there's a tool that could give them a head start on the journey, it's not the whole race. You don't just take this pill and you're all better. It's a tool on the journey for people to realize that this is something that they could include in their holistic approach to getting better that could actually give them a head start. I think more people would be willing to say, tell me more. Tell me more. So that's kind of, I'm sitting over here listening to you guys talk about the science of it. And I think for the most part, people understand you. I'm going to Google a couple things, but I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued enough that as I'm listening to you guys talk, I'm sure our listeners are as well, to just say, tell me more. I think that a lot of people are in that place now where they're going, I get it. I see it could be a head start for me. It could help me kind of from where I feel like I'm so far behind to where I'm willing to start and seeing this as a tool that could help give me a head start. So I'm appreciating it.
So one of the things I want to get into, here as the end, right? So we want to talk about considerations, um, of natural methods and GLP-1s or versus GLP-1s. I don't care how you put it, but we want to talk about severity of conditions. Okay. What is an individual? If you have mild symptoms and all that, don't try to put this extra, don't try to get the boots right now. Just try to clean it up a little bit best you can. Come see us for lifestyle and exercise and the coaching and accountability and the groups. Go from there. It doesn't mean it's not a condition, because if you have other conditions, it may get there. What goes to the next piece? We want to talk about medical advice. I'm talking about our team is actually our medical doctors that sit there and talk about it. The reason why we use medical doctors, because they have to consider other medical conditions you may have. So you may need to actually use allopathic pharmaceutical medications on top of this, right? Or if you're already using something, you may not, right? But they're the only ones who can actually do that, right? So that's why we actually have a medical doctor, on our staff. We actually have a couple, but that's why we actually have them. So we actually run with that, and you can always reach out to them to get the answers. And then we always consider individual health goals. Everybody comes into it, they just want to lose weight. Well, that's not a health goal, to be straight with you. But every time I go to talk to somebody when I'm doing consults, they always want to move better. They always want to be healthy, and they always want to look good naked. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what we're trying to help you do, but we're trying to help you do it in a safe, effective, and efficient manner, using all the tools available to us. And the best way to do that is actually make sure that it's actually something that's made for you individually. But then also sometimes you have to use a combination of the therapies, like you talked about before, right? I mean, you come in and yeah, so we talk about the three-legged stool, but we may start you out on two. You may do the medical, you may do the nutrition, you may do the nutrition and the exercise, but for the most part, what people don't understand, the NIH a long time ago put out a concept. It was, I'm trying to draw the blank on it, is NCEP ATP3. And they said for almost even high blood pressure, high cholesterol, their recommendation first was exercise and nutrition, and then with the minimum microdose use of pharmaceuticals for a period of time to see we get it on. So the pharmaceuticals take you from the top to help bring it down so you're not spiked out. But then exercise and nutrition is always here. And over time, we know that improves it, right? And then that's the long term. So you always got to go there anyway, right? And we're just pulling it all together for you. Okay. And that's what it is. So, and that goes into sustainability and the lifestyle integrations. Um, and those are the big pieces that I see people missing. I've talked to doctors before. They're like, Dave, I recommend that people come to you, and the only thing they ask me for is the pill. Do this faster, get a pill. Well, that's because humans typically are in this race to comfort, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what caused the problems that we're having. We're in this race to comfort, and the stress that our body's going through. If you're not constantly being able to do hard better by challenging it, it's not going to happen for you. That's just the straight truth. And I can't put it any nicer way, right? So, our primary recommendation for managing these type of things, and the assessments that we got into it, you know, be to consult with a healthcare provider who understands their entire medical history. Get your entire medical history, right? Get a full functional assessment, not just the little model ones that you might get for your primary care. Let's look at it all. Let's look at your white blood cells, your red blood cells, your thyroid, your sex hormones. Let's look at everything we can. I know our doctors go a little deeper. They're looking at uric acid. They're looking at your zinc, your magnesium, your B12 levels, right? That's what they want to look at so they can get it to. The other thing that people are missing, get your genetic test done. You only have to do it once in your life, right? And it can be costly, but invest in that, because no matter what condition you have, if we understand what your genetic makeup is, we can do specific diagnosis and specific treatments for you. And so that's why we do that. That's why we do the genetics, and that's what's missing on a lot of people. That helps, right? And if you get that, we can help you get there faster. We can help you get there safer. Anything, Carrie?
No, I totally agree. It makes it very personalized. In this life, we want to stick people in boxes. Everybody fits in this range. Well, some people don't, and that's okay. And if we know that, then we're not always trying to push a boulder up a hill to try to get you within that range. We know you're not supposed to be in that range, or you just identify with a different range. So that's, I think, a big missing piece of people's health.
So, fast active advice, Carrie, for our listeners looking to explore treatment or otherwise personal health strategies, you know, get a hold of us at Sick Sick Health at E3 Fitology. We can actually drop the link to actually book a consult with me to get you started. You can actually go through and start getting your blood work going. And, by the way, to get to talk to Carrie, you got to go through me. Right? But trust me, I will get you there safe, fast, and in a hurry. Okay. So visit our website and contact us directly to schedule a consultation with our specialists. So we're here to help you achieve your true performance. But thank you all to our listeners for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes. And remember, true performance is working at the cellular level. You connect mind and muscle, and transformation happens. So keep pushing your boundaries, or we can help you achieve.